Open your fridge and read the name on the ketchup bottle. German. The plane you last flew in. German. The jeans you are wearing. The bank that runs Wall Street. The piano on every concert stage in the world. German. And behind every one of these names hides a story, a village, a reason to leave, a ship, and on the other side, a fortune. Tonight we decode 15 of America's richest families with secret German roots, what each name really means, how it crossed the ocean, and how it got incredibly rich. And number 1 is the richest name in American history. You know the name, but you have probably no idea what it means. Number 15. There is a piece of Franconia sewn into your wardrobe right now. The most American garment ever invented, the blue jean, carries the name of a Jewish boy from Buttenheim in Bavaria, Levi Strauss. He was born Levi Strauss in 1829 in a house that still stands and is a museum today. The surname Strauss means the ostrich, and one strong explanation for names like it reaches back to the old cities of the empire, where houses carried painted signs instead of numbers, and families took their names from the sign above the door. After his father died of tuberculosis, Loeb, his mother, and his sisters sailed for New York in 1847. He joined his half-brother's dry goods trade and in 1853 followed the gold rush west to San Francisco, selling cloth, blankets, and workwear to miners. Loeb had long since become Levi. In 1872, a Nevada tailor named Jacob Davis, an immigrant himself, wrote to him about strengthening work trousers with copper rivets, and in 1873, the two men patented the riveted blue jean. The name on the leather patch, the name on half the world's hips, is the name of a Franconian house sign that once showed a bird no one in Buttenheim had ever seen alive. Number 14. It calls itself the King of Beers. Its Clydesdales are a Super Bowl institution, its eagle sits on every can of Budweiser, and for generations it has sold itself as the taste of America. But the two names on the brewery wall were carried across the Atlantic by two German emigrants, and neither of them started as a brewer. Eberhard Anheuser was born in 1806 in Bad Kreuznach, a spa town on the river Nahe, and he made his first fortune in soap. When a struggling St. Louis brewery could not pay what it owed him in 1860, he took the brewery instead of the debt. His surname is habitational. An Anheuser was a man whose family once came from a place called Anhausen, the settlement at the houses. His future son-in-law arrived in 1857 from Kastel, near Mainz, one of more than 20 children of a wealthy dealer in wine and brewing supplies, Adolphus Busch. That name is one of the oldest kinds German has. Busch meant the bush, the thicket, the family living at the edge of the scrubland. Busch married Anheuser's daughter Lily in 1861, took over sales, and turned a debt collector's brewery into the largest in the world, with pasteurized beer, refrigerated railcars, and a light bohemian lager he named after the town of Budweis. The King of Beers, built by a soap maker from the Nahe Valley, and a boy named after a thicket. Number 13. At any moment of any day, thousands of these machines are in the sky at once. The name painted on their sides is so familiar that most people have stopped seeing it as a name at all. It sounds like engineering. It sounds like aviation itself. It is a Westphalian family name, Boeing. Wilhelm Boeing was born in 1846 in Hohenlimburg, in the hill country east of the Ruhr. The name is most likely a Low German patronymic, the ending in Mark's descent, the son of a man called Bodo. In 1868, 22 years old, Wilhelm sailed for America and built a fortune in Michigan timber and iron ore. His son William Edward Boeing, born in Detroit in 1881, inherited the money, moved west, and in 1916, in a boathouse on Lake Union in Seattle, finished his first airplane. Along the way, the umlaut fell off, the pronunciation softened, and Boeing became Boeing, a word the whole world now says without knowing it is speaking a German family's name. And if that one surprised you, stay close. One tiny wine village in the Pfalz, barely 1,000 people between its vineyard rows, produced two of the names still ahead on this list. If you want more names decoded straight from the original records, from church books and ship manifests, subscribe and turn on notifications, because this channel finds what the spelling changes tried to hide. Now to a king with freckles. Number 12. In the 1880s, one man effectively set the price of sugar for the entire American West, and for a while held the sugar crop of the Kingdom of Hawaii in his hand. His name sounds almost playful, and its meaning is even more so. Spreckels. Claus Spreckels was born in 1828 in Lastrup, a farm village in Lower Saxony. The name is Low German. A spreckle is a speckle, a fleck, and the first man to carry it was most likely simply a freckled man. His neighbors named him after his face, and the nickname hardened into a surname. Claus left for America in 1846, worked in a grocery, ran a brewery in San Francisco, and then saw where the real money slept: sugar. He built refineries on the West Coast, fought the Eastern Sugar Trust openly and won ground against it, and bought land and water rights on Maui until the island's cane flowed through his books. The papers called him the Sugar King. His sons built streetcars in San Francisco and beat sugar empires in California, all of it stacked on top of a Plattdeutsch word for freckles. Some names on this list were changed to hide their origin. This one survived untouched because nobody guessed there was anything to find. Number 11. The next name stands over the most powerful investment bank on earth, a firm whose alumni run treasuries and central banks. It began with a horse, a cart, and a village in Franconia. Goldman. Marcus Goldman was born in 1821 in Trappstadt, a small place in northern Bavaria near the Thuringian border, the son of a Jewish cattle dealer. The surname says what it shows: the Gold Man, a name tied to dealing in gold or working it, one of the trade and ornament names carried by Jewish families when hereditary surnames became law in Bavaria. In 1848, Marcus joined the great emigration wave and started in America the way thousands of German Jewish immigrants did, as a peddler, walking Philadelphia with a horse-drawn cart. By 1869, he had moved to New York and opened a one-room office in Pine Street, buying and selling merchants' promissory notes. That one room became Goldman Sachs when his son-in-law Samuel Sachs, himself the son of German immigrants from Bavaria, joined the firm in 1882. Today, the name is shorthand for Wall Street itself. Strip the marble away, and it is still a Franconian village name that means exactly what it promises: gold. Number 10. The winter of 1708 to 1709 broke the Rhineland. It was so cold that birds reportedly froze in the air, vineyards died to the root, and by spring, thousands of Palatine families gave up on the land entirely. They floated down the Rhine to Rotterdam, crossed to London, and begged passage to the New World. In that exodus of 1709 traveled a man born in 1672, whose name the clerks would wrestle with for the next 2 centuries. Johann Philipp Chrysler, from Guntersblum in the Rhineland. Chrysler, 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 until it settled in America as a word you now see in Chrome. Chrysler. The exact meaning of Chrysler is disputed among name researchers. The paper trail of the family is not. The line runs from Guntersblum through colonial New York, through Canada, and into Kansas, where in 1875 a railroad man's son named Walter Chrysler was born. Walter started as a machinist, wiping down locomotives, taught himself engineering by mail-order courses, and rose until he founded the Chrysler Corporation in 1925. 5 years later, he put up the Chrysler Building, briefly the tallest structure on Earth, its steel eagles staring over Manhattan. A family that fled a frozen river valley with nothing now had its name in stainless steel 1,000 feet above New York. Number 9. For most of the 20th century, one family controlled more American timberland than entire states hold in public land. Their name travels on lumber, on paper, on cardboard boxes, moving through every warehouse in the country, and almost nobody who reads it can pronounce it. Weyerhaeuser. In the records of Niedersalheim, a farming village in Rheinhessen, the family appears as Weyerhaeuser, and the name is a map in miniature. A Weiher is an old German word for a fish pond, borrowed from the Latin vivarium back in Roman times. The Weyerhaeuser were the people of the houses by the pond. Friedrich Weyerhaeuser was born there in 1834, the son of a farmer who died when the boy was 12. In 1852, he boarded an emigrant ship, landed with close to nothing, and took work at a sawmill in Rock Island, Illinois. When the mill's owners went under, he and his brother-in-law bought it. From that one mill grew a timber empire, and in 1900 came the deal that sealed it. Roughly 900,000 acres bought from the Northern Pacific Railway, one of the largest private land purchases in American history. When Friedrich Weyerhaeuser died in 1914, some newspapers guessed he had been richer than Rockefeller. Nobody could check because the boy from the pond houses never spoke about money. He had learned silence in German and kept it in English. Number 8. The next German name is probably in your medicine cabinet right now, and after 2020, there is hardly a person on earth who has not spoken it aloud. Pfizer. Carl Pfizer was born in 1824 in Ludwigsburg in Württemberg and trained as a chemist's apprentice. In the hungry years of 1848 and 1849, he emigrated with his cousin, Karl Erhard, a confectioner by trade, and with 2,500 borrowed dollars, the two cousins opened a small chemical works in a red brick building in Brooklyn in 1849. Their first product tells you everything about the era. Santonin, a bitter medicine against intestinal worms. The chemist made the medicine, and the confectioner folded it into an almond-flavored toffee so that people could swallow it. It worked, and the little Brooklyn firm never stopped growing. The name Pfizer is most likely a Swabian form of Pfister, the old South German word for a baker, which the language took from the Latin pista, when the Romans still ran the Rhine, which means the largest pharmaceutical name of our lifetime, the name on vaccine vials in every country on the planet, most likely began as the man at the village oven, pulling out bread. Number 7. October 1736. A wooden desk in the port of Philadelphia. In front of the clerk stands a family of blade makers, 10 weeks of ocean behind them, and when he asks for their name, he hears something his English ear cannot hold. Studebaker. He writes down what he thinks he heard. Studebaker. The family came from Solingen, the city of blades, where the Studebekers in older records also written Staudenbeker had worked in the forging trades for generations. The name itself is disarmingly peaceful. A Studebaker was a baker of Stuten, the fine white festival bread. A white bread baker's name, carried by bladesmiths. When they resolved to leave for Pennsylvania, the Cutlers' Guild stood in the doorway because Solingen feared nothing more than its blade-making secrets emigrating with its craftsmen. The family got out anyway, sailed from Rotterdam aboard the ship Harle, and walked off the gangway with a new spelling they had not chosen. America tested them brutally. In 1756, Heinrich Studebaker was killed when his frontier farm was raided during the French and Indian War, and part of his family was carried off. The survivors endured. And in 1852, 5 Studebaker brothers opened a blacksmith and wagon shop in South Bend, Indiana, that grew into the largest wagon builder on earth, and then into an automobile company. The blades of Solingen became the wagons of the frontier, became the cars of the highway, and the entire journey hides inside one clerk's spelling. Number 6. When he died in 1848, he was the richest man in the United States, and by one estimate, his fortune equaled one out of every $107 in the country. He had arrived 64 years earlier as a butcher's son with 7 flutes to sell. Astor. Johann Jakob. Astor was born in 1763 in Waldorf, a village near Heidelberg, the 4th son of the local butcher. The surname is a riddle with a likely answer. One strong theory traces the family to Protestant refugees who came north from the Alps, carrying a southern word, Astor, the goshawk, a hunter's bird for a hunter's name, and the man lived up to it. Landing in America in 1784, he moved from musical instruments into furs, sent his agents deep into the wilderness, built the American Fur Company into a continental machine, and then converted the profits into the safest prey of all, Manhattan land. He never forgot the village. He left money for the poor of Waldorf, and the town still tends his memory. And his great-grandson closed the circle in a way no one could have planned. He built the most famous hotel on earth and stitched the village into its name forever. The Waldorf Astoria, a Heidelberg country village spelled in lights on Park Avenue. Number 5. 57 varieties. A slogan invented on a train, a number picked because it looked good, and a bottle that sits in the door of your refrigerator right now. The name on that bottle is one of the most German names that exists. Heinz. It is a short form of Heinrich, the name of emperors, built from old words meaning home and ruler. The man who put it on ketchup, Henry John Heinz, was born in Pittsburgh in 1844 and was selling produce from his mother's garden by the age of 8, with a horseradish recipe that made him locally famous before he could vote. But the name crossed the ocean one generation earlier. His father, Johann Heinrich Heinz, emigrated in 1840 from Karlstadt, a wine grower's village of vineyard rows in the Pfalz, the kind of place where every family owns a strip of slope and the church book records everyone. Remember the village I promised you at number 13? This is it. And Karlstadt was not finished. Decades after Heinrich Heinz walked out of it toward the harbor, a barber's apprentice from the same village packed his bag in secret at night and left a note on the kitchen table for his mother. The name that boy carried is number 4. Number 4. You may think you already know this name's story. Most of what the internet believes about it is wrong. Trump. Yes, the family comes from Karlstadt, the same thousand-soul wine village as the Heinz family. And yes, the church books hold older spellings. A wandering lawyer named Hans Strumpf settled in Karlstadt in 1608, and the earliest documented ancestor in the direct line was Johann Philipp Strumpf, born in 1667. But the famous version, that the name was changed from Drumpf at an American harbor desk, is a myth. The parish records show the spelling had already settled into Trump by the end of the 17th century in Germany, more than 150 years before anyone sailed. The name itself most likely reaches back to a Middle High German word for a drum, a drummer's name. Friedrich Trump was born in Karlstadt in 1869, trained as a barber, and in 1885, 16 years old, slipped away at night to avoid Bavarian military service, leaving that note for his mother. In America, he ran restaurants and lodging houses in the boom towns of the gold rush era, went home to marry a Karlstadt girl, was expelled for his old draft evasion, and returned to New York for good. The real German secret in this name is not a changed spelling. It is that the family later preferred not to mention Germany at all, for years claiming Swedish roots instead. The church book in Karlstadt never went along with the story. Number 3. In 1836, in a kitchen in the town of Seesen, at the edge of the Harz Mountains, a cabinet maker built a grand piano with his own hands because he could never have afforded to buy one. Heinrich Engelhard Steinway, born in 1797 in the mining village of Wolfshagen and orphaned young, had exactly 2 assets, his ear and his hands. Steinway means precisely what it sounds like: the stone way, the paved path, the name of a family that lived along one. In 1850, he sailed for New York with his sons. And here is the detail this whole video turns on. The family worked in other men's piano shops for 3 years, studied the market, and then made a business decision about their own name. In New York showrooms, instruments with English-sounding names simply sold better. So in 1853, they founded their firm not as Steinway & Sons, but as Steinway & Sons, and later made the change official. Same name, same meaning, new coat. The Stoneway became Steinway, and the kitchen table piano became the instrument on which the overwhelming majority of the world's concert pianists insist to this day. When you read the golden letters above the keys, you are reading a street description from the Harz, translated just enough to pass. Number 2. In the early 1750s, a family from Alsace stood at the harbor with no passage money and paid for the crossing with the only thing they had left: years of their own labor. Firestone. The name was Feuerstein then, and it means the flint, the firestone, the rock that throws a spark when struck against steel. Nicholas Feuerstein came from the villages of Berg and Thal in Alsace, German-speaking country under the French crown. And one reason the family history gives for leaving is that he wanted to keep his eldest son out of the armies of King Louis XV. So they crossed as indentured servants, their work contracted away in advance, and served out the debt on a farm in eastern Pennsylvania. Within a generation, sons of the family translated the name straight into English. Feuerstein to Firestone, meaning preserved, language exchanged. In 1868, on an Ohio farm his German-American grandfather had built, Harvey Firestone was born. In 1900, he founded the Firestone Tire and Rubber Company in Akron. One Henry Ford as his great customer and put his family's name under the Model T and half the cars of the century. He grew so close to Ford and Thomas Edison that the three toured the country camping together, calling themselves the Vagabonds. The flint from Alsace struck against American steel and the spark caught. The number one name on this list is the richest name in American history, and it leads to a place you can no longer visit. Rockefeller. High above the Rhine, near Neuwied, on a forest ridge 330 meters up, stood a village first written down in 1280 as Ruckenveld, Rockenfeld. The name is farmland German at its plainest. Rocken, the rye. Feld, the open field. The people from the rye field. In the church register of Rengsdorf, a baptism is recorded on September 27th, 1682. Johann Peter Rockefeller. In 1723, he took his wife Anna Maria and their children down the Rhine and across the ocean to New Jersey, where he lived out his years as a farmer and a miller. On the way, the spelling loosened, Rockefeller, Roggenfelder, until it hardened into Rockefeller. His descendant, John Davison Rockefeller, born in 1839, founded Standard Oil and became, by most measures, the richest private citizen of the modern age, the first man commonly called a billionaire. And the village? Rockenfeld emptied out through the 20th century. The school closed in 1935. The last families drifted down to the river towns, and today the Rye Field village is abandoned, a quiet clearing in the forest above the Rhine. The most powerful surname in America outlived the place that created it, which may be the truest thing this whole list has to say. Fortunes rise, buildings change their names, but a surname carries its village, its trade, and its river inside it, wherever the money goes. Every name in this video was spoken for the first time in a German village, and every one of them crossed the ocean inside a church book, a ship manifest, or a clerk's honest mistake. Your name made a journey too. Tell us where you're listening from, and which surname you'd like decoded. Any name, any origin, and it may become one of the next episodes. You are named by history.